Hey everybody, welcome back to the Back to Brilliance podcast. We're your hosts Henry and Joseph. Thanks for tuning in. We ask that wherever you listen, that you would subscribe, leave a comment, a review. Helps great people like you find our podcast. And with that, today we're going to jump into our episode. We're talking about ascend and monetize and create a product ladder that actually sells. And in this episode, we're going to discuss how to increase average order value with a deliberate process. And with that, I want to bring in our co-host Joseph. Joseph, say what's up. Take it away.
Hey everybody, how's it going? So today I wanted to talk about, how to scale your business, how to, some real world examples and some things to take away from this episode, right? We talk a lot about the mental side of things. So I was like, let's make a more practical side of things, especially more for our entrepreneurs who are listening. That way we can give you some ideas to think about and to implement into your own business.
All right. So with that, guys, we're going to jump right into it. So our first point we want to bring out is map your best acquisition channels and double down on the top two.
Right. So I'm going to give, for every point that Henry, lists out, I'm going to give like a real world example and how that plays out. Right. So for example, you know, Airbnb had a lot of the early plans about Airbnb was focusing on what was Craigslist doing and their SEO, right? So they really optimized what Craigslist was doing for their rentals or like their uh the rooms or whatever, right? I don't know the exact listing, but basically they poured a lot of resources into automating and scaling what Craigslist did. That way they can, optimize it just for what Airbnb was trying to do, right? So basically you want to pick two channels, right? The SEO and the automation was what Airbnb did. And then they implemented those, right? So again, they had a lot of they had better landing pages. That way people felt a lot more clear as to what Airbnb was offering versus Craigslist, how Craigslist is like a hub of offers versus Airbnb. It was a very targeted and focused search.
That's mapping your best acquisition channels and doubling down on them. We're going to move to our next point is create a predictable front end funnel with a clear offer.
Right. So again, an example for this is Dollar Shave Club, right? So Dollar Shave Club, whenever they launched, they had those very viral videos or like those ads, right? It was like the CEO was like the guy promoting the product, and he would like, say very clear expletives that you knew what he was saying, but they, so it made it very viral because that wasn't really common at the time. And then they made a very simple subscription offer, right? So that was the offer was, hey, we have a funny ad, but we also have a simple subscription model for something that you're going to buy anyways, right? So as opposed to, buying razors every month, going to the grocery store and whatever, they're like, hey, we'll just send it to your door. And so that was like the main thing that they focused on.
Clear offer. So create a predictable front end funnel with that clear offer. And our next point is set a weekly experiment quota for new outreach tactics and measure results.
Yeah. So, I mean, this one kind of speaks for itself, right? So you want to set like a quarterly quota matching your KPIs, right? Your key point index, right? So how many conversions do I have? How many click-aways do I have? These type of things. So let's say you're not running a full digital marketing funnel, right? A sales funnel with like a landing page and a conversion event. So let's just say that you don't have that. You try to measure, how many people are staying per month and how many new people am I getting, right? That's like the most fundamental thing that you can track.
And then the next thing you want to do is increase value per customer. And we do this by our next point is design a 3-tier product ladder. So like entry, core, and premium.
Yeah. So again, another example of this is Spotify or Apple Music, right? They have the free trial or low cost. Then they have the paid plan, which is the individual plan, right? The $10 a month. I don't know what it is now, for Spotify, but the individual plan, and then they have an upsell or a premium offer, which is the family or the packaged offer, right? So if you're a service-based business, you can have you know individual training and then group training, for example, or individual coaching and group coaching, however you want to structure it.
Right. And that's, a three-tier product ladder. So the entry, core, and premium. Our next point is implement, deliberate upsell and cross-sell paths at checkout and post-purchase.
Right. So that's a lot of jargon. I know that that's a lot of words. All of that to say is like basically whenever you package your checkout page, or your we'll just say a checkout page, you always want to include an upsell, right? Something that they can add on, right? So I'll give two examples. One is a real world example is whenever you're at the checkout line for Walmart or any grocery store, they have those little gums. They have the gum, the chocolates, whatever, right at the very end. That way, you're like, sure, I'll buy that. That is an upsell. Or Amazon would be another example where they have the frequently bought together thing. So if you're gonna buy headphones, well, maybe you want to have a USB dongle, or like, let's say you buy a laptop, right? And so the laptop will be like, hey, you bought the laptop. People also buy a laptop bag, a charging port. They add things there for you to add onto your checkout. That way, it's like, okay, well, I bought the main product, but I'm gonna add on a bunch of small things to again increase the value per customer.
So that's the, implementing an upsell and cross-sell paths at checkout. That's our second point. And the third point is do a A/B test, price points and bundles with a 30-day cadence.
Yeah, so the emphasis on this is like again the 30-day cadence, right? Every month, try something new. Don't try it for too long, because if you try to experiment with something for too long, you're just hurting yourself in the long term, right? You want to be constantly evolving. So basically, what you want to do is have your new price and your original price, and see how that gets along, or how people really interact with that, right? So let's say your service fee is $45. Well, maybe you could experiment with it being $55, but you include something. Or maybe you have it be $60, but you have it in two payments or whatever, right? So these are all things that you can experiment with, but just again, keep the experimentation phase small. That way you're not like running a bad experiment for a long time.
That A/B test is going to help you, with your bundling over a 30-day period. Which brings us to our next point about maximize retention and frequency. Said our first point in there is instrument a life cycle playbook that triggers emails, SMS, or calls at key moments.
Right. So most companies do this because it's such an important thing. And so the example I have is Sephora, right? They'll have onboarding emails, right? If you know how I check out, they're like, hey, do you want to sign up for our email? Or, do you want to give us your email for to get deals or whatever? And if you say yes, then what they'll do is they'll give you an onboarding email saying, hey, welcome to the newsletter, right? And then they'll give you reminders. They'll give you weekly or monthly reminders of, hey, you should be buying from us. We have this deal, buy from us. We have this going on, buy from us, right? So you want to do that as well. If you're a service-based business, what you could do is tell people, hey, we're running this sale for this month, or hey, we've had X amount of people sign up this month. You should be one too, right? Birthday offers, right? So that way people have a reason to go to you on a given day per year. So like the free ice cream at Baskin Robbins or a free meal, right? That's all just promo for you to go in and buy something, right? Because maybe you have a family, and so let's say you go in because it's your birthday. Well, if you have a family, that's three other purchases that you're going to make that day. Also, VIP outreach, right? That way, let's say you spend a certain amount per month. Well, then you can have an automation say, hey, now you're going to have 30% off on your next purchase. Or I'm sure you've seen punch cards where it's like, hey, if you have bought our product or if you've done our service five times, we'll give you the sixth time for free or half off. Right? Domino's does that. If you buy enough pizzas from Domino's, they give you a free pizza essentially.
And that's the way to maximize retention. Again, it's just using an instrument, a life cycle playbook, using email, SMS, just to stay in touch. The next point is launch a retention product or membership that converts one-time buyers into repeat buyers.
Right, exactly. So basically, a common example of this would be like a CD, right? Or like a music company, right? So let's say you buy an album. Well, then they're like, hey, well, we have a monthly service where we give you a free album or where we give you songs or whatever, right? So that would be one, right? Or if you're a service-based business, you're like, hey, buy this one training, buy this one coaching, and then if you like it, then we can keep working together after that one purchase. So it's just a way to really capitalize off of someone buying from you and then have them keep buying from you.
And that's the way to maximize your retention, is creating the memberships that convert and staying in touch with your client. So that moves us to our next point, is to nail a unique selling proposition or a USP. And our first point there is state your USP in one sentence. Focus on the customer's outcome.
Right. So a very good example for this is Canva versus Adobe, right? Canva, at one point, they made their slogan, design anything, no experience required. So what that meant was it was really taking all of Adobe's clients who, maybe they bought Photoshop because they wanted to do stuff, or Illustrator, but they had no design experience, right? They had no experience, but they were using a commercial grade product. Well, then what Canva did was, hey, there's a whole market of people buying this product. Let's make a product for those people that buy that product that don't know anything, which is a lot. A lot more people know nothing than they know something about it. Or there's a lot more inexperienced people than experienced people. So what Canva did was they made it into they made their own market, right? Because Adobe was targeting professionals versus Canva made it quick and easy for anyone to use it.
So state your USP in one sentence, always focusing on the customer. Brings us to our next point where you just said remove any of the Me Too features that dilute the message.
Exactly. So, this whole topic or whatever is all about making yourself stand out. So if you have a lot of a lot of features that other people will have in your business, right? Let's say you're a coach and you're like, oh well, I do life coaching and I do mindset coaching, but there's not anything else. There's no meat and potatoes behind that. And it's just more of a Me Too thing, right? Like, I saw this guy do it, so I'm doing it too, right? You have to kind of repackage it a little bit. You don't have to recreate the wheel per se, but you just have to make your service stand out to your customer.
So removing that Me Too feature, that dilutes the message, So again, just the USP, nailing your unique selling proposition, and then make the USP the headline across all your touch points.
Yeah. So again, the Canva example, right? Design anything. That can be a whole product line, right? So design anything, no experience required. So, you know, Canva, what they did was they went from just making images, so now they do business cards, right? They have templates for business cards. They have templates for t-shirts. They have templates for web pages. But that's all just to help you with the design anything, right? When they say design anything, they expanded it to mostly anything, right? Or mostly everything. And so, you know, let's say your slogan or your USP is, you know, we do it quick, right? Or we do it professionally or something like that, right? So you want to reinforce what you're doing for the market in every part that you do. That way, you really stand out. It becomes your brand, right? Or like, there's a YouTuber that I watch, and what he'll say is, I'm your YouTuber's favorite YouTuber," or something along those lines, right? Saying like, all of your favorite YouTubers watch me. So that is kind of how he markets himself.
Which moves us to our next point. Use the 4-action framework to rework your value curve. And our first point is eliminate one industry norm that wastes time or money for customers.
Yeah, so a big example of that is Netflix, right? They took away the waiting for the theatrical release and just made it go online, right? All you have to do is whenever the movie comes out, press play from your couch, versus having to go to the movie theater, buy a ticket, wait for it to play, and then drive home. Right? They eliminated a whole norm, and now that's what the market is.
Our next point is reduce one aspect that is overbuilt and drives costs without value.
Right. So, you know, we can go back to the Canva example, right? So they removed a lot of the complexity that was Photoshop and Illustrator, and just made the learning curve non-existent or very little, right? You can't remove it entirely, but what they did was they made a product that was very overcomplicated for good reasons, right? Because professionals, they want to have control over every nuance. But for a beginner, they're not going to know about all of that stuff, so why include it, right? So they made it more minimal, which made it frictionless and fast, which millions of users who just wanted to create something were able to do that.
Yeah, and it brings us to our next point is raise one experience factor above the standard to remove customer compromise.
Right. So a good example for this is Nike or Nike, however you want to say it. You know, a lot of the shoe sneaker brands or sport brands, they're just a sport brand, right? You know, Reebok, Adidas, all these brands, they don't really have anything that makes them stand out. So what Nike did was they're like, hey, we're gonna create a story with our products, right? So the Jordans, right? You're buying from Michael Jordan, you're buying the Air Force Jordans, right? So they made a story around their products.
Brings us to our next point is create one feature or service customers did not know they needed.
So this is a kind of out there example, but basically Tesla, right? So a lot of electrical vehicles were coming out and are coming out. So what Tesla did was they made software updates on the fly, right? So if you had a car that had a lot of electrical components to it, your car would just be stuck on that version or that model. And so if there was something wrong with the internal electrics of the vehicle, you would just have to buy a whole new vehicle because you're stuck with that piece of hardware or software rather, right? So what Tesla did was like, hey, if there's a problem in how the tracking feature works or whatever, or the backup camera works, we're just going to update the software for it because we could do that. And so that was one thing that really standardized having your car update itself like a phone.
So our next point is institutionalize innovation and move faster than competitors. Making an innovation a repeatable process, and you do this by use kind of the loop idea, build minimalist test and measure, either scale or kill.
Yeah, exactly. So this kind of goes back to the 30-day process where you want to build out or you want to have an idea, build it out. Don't build it out all the way, just kind of build out the skeleton of it or the logic behind it, and then have users test it and see if it's worth building, right? And then so you can either scale upon that little prototype or you kill it and move on to the next one.
Brings us to our next point is to document your wins and add successful experiments to standard operating procedures.
Yeah, so basically, as you're doing things, as you're a business owner, you want to constantly be writing down your standard operating procedures because not only does that help you find the leak in your system, right? Maybe there's like one part of your system that you're investing a lot of time into, and you're like, I could save an hour a day if I just did that one step differently, right? But also it helps delegate to people, right? So if you're going to train a new employee to do your job for you, you're going to need to tell them how you're doing that particular job. Because you can't just be like, oh, I don't know, figure it out like I did, right? No one's going to want to work for you if that's the case. And not only that, but you're making a new problem for yourself because now that person doesn't know how to do it effectively or efficiently.
Brings us to our next point is putting those systematic idea generation practices in place. And do this, our first point is use the magic product cube, mixed price, product type, and USP to spawn 10 new concepts.
Yeah, so this is in one of the books that I was reading, and it was really, really helpful. It sounds very complicated at first, but a lot of it we've already talked about, right? So here's an approach that it mentions, right? So you take your price tiers, right? The free, the cheap, and the premium. Then and this is all to generate new concepts, right? So we're trying to create new ideas. That way we don't stagnate because, if we're never evolving, then we just stagnate and then people will get better than us. So basically, you want to approach everything or assess everything that you have, right? So you want to assess your product tiers, right? Your free model, your cheap model, your premium model. You want to assess your product formats, right? So let's say you're a coach. Do you have courses? Do you have tools? What services do you have? Right. Then you want to look at your USP, right? Is it speed? Is it reliability? Is it simplicity? What are you adding to the market or to your clients that other people are not? Then once you come up with those ideas or jot those things down in different, maybe you focus on your cheap model and it's like, okay, I have a cheap tool that is reliable, right? That's kind of bringing in all of those criterias. So then you mess around with, okay, what would that look like? That way you can generate ideas.
Which brings us to our next point is practice one step, remove thinking. List adjacent business moves your competency allows.
Yeah, so again, this sounds a little word heavy, but basically what that means is, you know, look at what other people are doing around you or what other businesses in your niche are doing, then adjust what to what you're able to do, right? So an example of this was Peloton looked around and they saw, okay, there's a lot of exercise bikes, but they're missing a component that we can add. So what they added was a subscription model as well as classes to do at home, right? So you no longer have to go to a studio. All you do is buy a Peloton, buy the subscription, and then that subscription will allow you to, take classes or work out with people alongside you at home.
Brings us to our next point is mine other industries weekly for tactics you can transplant and adapt.
So again, all of this is to say, look at around you, see what people are doing, and implement those into your game plan, right? So an example was Duolingo got a lot of um their features from mobile games, right? So they made game mechanics into their game, or they gamified it, right? That's kind of a term now. So, instead of just like teaching you how to learn the language in the very quote unquote monotonous or like boring way, they made it more gamified, right? So they have streaks, levels, leaderboards, reward sounds, all of that from mobile games. And so they took that in and they're like, okay, now we have a product that is more engaging. And now that's like a universal standard.
Create a product ladder that actually sells, build a scalable revenue engine, by systemizing your customer acquisitions. And you want to nail that unique selling proposition or your USP. Make it simple so they can understand and, see the difference that your product or service makes. And again, we just go back to the systematic idea generation practices. And with that, want to bring Joseph back in if he has any closing thoughts or ideas.
Yeah, pretty much. I know this episode probably went by pretty quick. Go back and listen to it, right? Maybe every quarter, come back and listen to this episode because there's a lot of information that we kind of jam packed, but you can use a different solution every quarter or every month, right? So that's what I would say. Come back to this episode, try 2 or 3 things out, implement it for a month, and then come back to us, right? I also want to give a shout out to our community, where we promote these ideas, where we share these ideas. So we have a community of self growth tools, as well as community support, and weekly structure to help you stay focused and follow through. So that's at backtobrilliance.com. If you scroll down to the community section, you'll be linked up with like-minded people like you.
Well said. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in to our podcast. Don't forget that wherever you listen, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment or a review. It helps great people like you find our podcast. And with that, we're out until the next time. Stay blessed.
Bye-bye.